One man left home at 21 and didn't return until he was 50. He traveled over 75,000 miles alone, farther than any explorer in history. Yet almost no one talks about him. Why? Why did he do all this? And more importantly, what did he understand about exploring the earth that most tourists on vacation fail to see? In this video, I'll dive into the philosophical explorations and the spiritual adventures of Ibn Battuta and what this means for you, the traveler. Very quickly, I'll cover the first two questions. Why does no one talk about him? He isn't as famous as like Marco Polo because his travel log, the Rihla, wasn't translated into English until the 1800s, which means that for 500 years, it only remained in Arabic. Meanwhile, at the same time, Marco Polo's travelogue was basically immediately translated into all the European languages and had 500 years of fame ahead of Ibn Battuta, which is why we don't talk about him as much. Why did he do this? He initially left Tangier, Morocco to go to the religious pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. And then in his words, he got an overpowering impulse to see the rest of the Muslim world. And then that developed into an urge to basically see every corner of the world. And then 3, what did he understand about traveling? I'll break this down into 3 parts. The philosophical aspect, the educational aspect, and the spiritual aspect. I'm gonna read you a few of Ibn Battuta's thoughts he was having from his travelogue, the Rihla, as he was on this 29-year expedition. So you can have a quick glimpse into his life philosophy along this journey and leading up to it. Traveling leaves you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller. Every journey teaches the traveler something new about himself. In traveling, there's knowledge, wisdom, and refinement of character. I set out alone, having neither companion nor caravan, but an overmastering impulse within me. This is him describing the thoughts he was having as he was about to leave Tangier, Morocco as a 21-year-old and not return for 29 years. Traveling gives you home in 1,000 strange places, then leaves you a stranger in your own land. After now visiting 17 countries myself, I do feel like an outsider back at home. It opened my eyes to the madness I was normalized to growing up in the United States. It enlightened me to how normal we think of things that are not normal. Like, for example, the last time I traveled in a circle around the entire planet 3 years ago, I remember meeting people and asking them, "Hey, what's your name? What do you do?" And people would just be like, what? Then I returned back home after 3 months and I'm meeting people again. "Hey, what's your name? What do you do?" And then I realized that's the first time I've heard this question in a while from someone else. And then I realized us as Americans, we meet other people by saying, "Hey, what's your name? Where does your money come from?" Within the first sentence of meeting somebody. What is this? And this is just one among numerous things that now make me feel like an outsider in my own country in topics like spirituality, health, morals, culture, and so many other things. And then it's left me identifying with a little bit of everywhere I have visited. Like Ibn Battuta said, it gives you a home in 1,000 strange places. Be in this world as if you were a traveler along a path. For those who reflect, there is a deep life lesson to be learned from this. The same way a path is something you temporarily travel through, is the way your life is. You're just here for a short while. The body you have is borrowed. It doesn't belong to you. When you leave this world, you take nothing with you. It is all temporary, just like the roads we travel through, and the alternation of the night and the day, and what God has created in the heavens and the earth are signs for those who are mindful. For those who reflect, there is a deep life lesson to be learned here. The way you observe the sun and the moon cycle forever is the way the world cycles and alternates, is the way your life will always cycle and alternate. Nothing is permanent. When you explore the earth, you realize everything is constantly changing. Everything cycles. That's the way of life. For those who reflect, there's a deep life lesson to be learned here. Have they not traveled the earth and observed how was the end of those before them? Is a Quran passage I was reflecting on when I went to the pyramids of Guatemala a few months ago. After observing the ruins of a once mighty civilization, it was a reflection on how everything eventually falls. Nothing is permanent. When you observe the world, you realize everything cycles, everything alternates. This is the natural order of life. The road taught me what books never could. This is why I dropped out of high school. Yeah. Because of this line right here. Wherever I traveled, I sought the company of scholars and learned from their ways. Rumi said, "Set your life on fire. Seek those who fan your flames." Ibn Battuta's fire was his curiosity. The fans were the scholars. In his travelogue, the Rihla, he said, "The road taught me what books never could." For Ibn Battuta, Earth was the greatest classroom. Ibn Battuta treated every place as a lesson. Markets taught economics, roads taught patience, mosques taught unity. To him, places weren't final destinations, they were chapters of growth. The legendary Persian poet Rumi says, "Leave the house of opinions and travel the road of experience," which tells you should value experience over theory. Battuta is quoted saying, "The world is vast, and in every land there is knowledge to be gained. Every land taught me something different about faith, people, and life." In another part, he's quoted saying, "What I witnessed with my own eyes corrected what I thought I already knew." Distract yourself and the world entertains you. Pay attention and the world educates you. This relates perfectly to the concept of being a traveler and not a tourist. Don't go to hostels in Vietnam where you're getting drunk out of your mind with Brits and Germans off of 50-cent beers on the beach. Travel to unfamiliar lands where people force you to expand your understanding of reality. This is ultimately how you get a better grip on understanding the world. You get to see how everyone has a different definition of what a successful and fulfilling life means. And ultimately, you collect all of these perspectives and you come to your own conclusion on what the best way to live life is. I personally have been to 17 countries and am currently circling the entire planet and sharing the life lessons I learned along the way, because Earth is the greatest classroom. I've learned more about money, communication skills, God, style, charisma, street smarts, outside in the world, more than I ever did from a book in a classroom. When you're an American in Morocco, Thailand, Mexico, you learn to make dollars and spend in pesos, dirham, baht. You learn that you don't actually need to be a millionaire to live a comfortable lifestyle. You can make your modest few $1,000s a month like you do back in your own Western country and take it to Morocco, take it to Mexico, take it to Thailand, and you can live the very comfortable lifestyle you desire. One of the greatest life lessons I recently learned within the last few weeks that I will carry on for the rest of my life, that will contribute to my success and my fulfillment in my life, is seek spiritual pleasures over worldly pleasures, because worldly goals you have will always be a moving goalpost. You will forever reach that point of thinking you made it, and now you have a next goal. It only made you happy for a few days, weeks, or months. Now you're moving on to the next thing. The happiness is like a cloud. It's here today and gone tomorrow. The solution to this is to seek spiritual pleasures, because when you are fulfilled in your soul, it's like the sky. It's always there and it will always be there. The happiness is the cloud that is here today and gone tomorrow. Be observant when you travel the world. Be observant even back in your own home. For those who reflect, there are deep life lessons to be learned here. In traveling, there is knowledge, wisdom, and refinement of character. Every journey teaches the traveler something new about himself. You know, the most recent life lesson I've learned here in Chefchaouen, Morocco, is have a touch of magic in your life. Walking the streets here of the Blue City makes you feel like you're in a medieval fairy tale. When you see the small, narrow streets, the old men walking around in their jalabas, you get this feeling that you're living in like a magical village, and it just gives life this beautiful charm to it. Now, of course, I'm not saying move to Chefchaouen, Morocco, but add a hint of magic to your life wherever you can, because it makes the experience that much more memorable and enjoyable. When I was in Tangier, I met this Japanese calligraphy artist that's been traveling for the last 11 months from Japan. And he's doing calligraphy shows in 14 different countries. I asked him, I said, what's your biggest life lesson you've learned the last year you have been on the road? He said, I was about to do my first calligraphy show on the streets of Indonesia. And he was sitting there for so long, just like, do I start? What are the people gonna think? Like, like this, you know? He finally, after like just going in circles and circles in his head, this little like 8-year-old Indonesian boy came up to him and said, like, hey, what are you doing? That's when it clicked for him. He's like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Do. Just go. And then that's when he started. It's just go. He gave me such a simple answer, but it was very profound. Ibn Battuta was quoted saying in his travel log, the Rihla, my journey was only for the sake of wandering through the lands of God. Whoever leaves his home for God will find it opened for him. For him, he wasn't traveling to run away from home. He was traveling to understand the creation of God, and through that, understand himself. Ibn Battuta said he had a dream in Alexandria, Egypt, that confirmed the prophecy of his destiny being a perpetual traveler. Combine that with his overmastering impulse to travel for 29 years straight. For him, being an explorer was his destiny. In his soul, he was an expeditionary. He said, I was treated with honor wherever I went, for God placed affection for travelers in the hearts of the people. This is actually very common to see when you travel to a place like Pakistan. Search later for videos of people traveling through Pakistan, and you'll notice how so many people don't even want to let you pay for anything. One, they're honored that you wanted to visit their country, and two, in their eyes, you are a traveler on a road who goes through struggles at times. So if they can assist you in any way, they will gladly do it. Ibn Battuta said, my journey was only for the sake of wandering through the lands of God. I'm currently in Chefchaouen, Morocco, the Blue City. When you look at the mountains and observe the lands of the earth, you can't help but to stare in wonder at these creations. You're just left in awe when you observe how perfectly the world is balanced, how perfectly everything works in order, how you have the perfect amount of oxygen provided to you by the nature around you. You get this feeling of wanting to continue exploring the creation, to get to know the creator. It's like admiring a historical artist's paintings. As you look at more and more of their paintings, you kind of want to get to know them, because you can get to know the painter a bit through their paintings. And as you observe the creation of this world, you want to get to know the creator more. Every land reveals a different name of God. When you travel through the mountains of Morocco and Chefchaouen, the name, the creator, is revealed to you. When you travel to a place like Mecca, Saudi Arabia, the name of God, the source of peace, is revealed. When you go out to travel into the jungles of Guatemala, the name, the preserver, the sustainer, is revealed to you. When you observe all the animals always returning back with food. They wake up, they don't know where it's going to come from. However, they are always provided for. When you observe the beauty of California's Yosemite or the Swiss Alps in Europe, you see the beautiful creation. You see the design behind everything. You see the calculation of how everything just works perfectly. And then the name, the hidden, is revealed. You can see the design, but not the designer. Staying in one place limits spiritual perception. This is one I have definitely noticed after leaving home and visiting foreign lands, is how your energy is shifted. After being too long in a certain place, your energy can stagnate. You can get in a rut. You can get caught up in a loop of a certain aspect of you. But then you get out there, switch up your environment, switch up the people you are in, and you feel a different air. You feel a different influence in the energy in the atmosphere around you. In a sense, you can be a different to you. This quote stresses on the idea of getting out there and observing as many perspectives as possible, so you have a more well-rounded understanding of the world, and therefore yourself. The traveler is the one whose heart is never fixed except upon God. This one makes a lot of sense when you are traveling and you are constantly changing environments, leaving certain people behind that you met on your travels and moving on to the next. you have to detach from your surroundings, from your worldly environment, and fix yourself on one thing. Rely on the creator, the maker, the designer. Travel does teach you to detach from worldly things. I have definitely felt this the last month when I was traveling through cities that I absolutely enjoyed, and part of me didn't want to leave, but ultimately I just reflect and think God has something else awaiting for me elsewhere. Don't attach yourself too much to the worldly things going on around you. And I'm kind of feeling like that right now with Chef Shawan at the moment. This place is so majestic. I feel like I'm in a medieval fairy tale here. Part of me doesn't want to leave. However, I trust in God's plan that even if it may not be the physical place that I'm going to tomorrow, that something else special is awaiting me there. Don't attach to the worldly situations. Attach yourself only to God. Rumi said, "The distance you must travel is not across land, but across the self." The movement of the physical self from place to place is leaving lands, seeking knowledge, or escaping corruption. But the movement in your soul, the transformation within the self happening from this physical movement of place to place is leaving ego, leaving sin, leaving distractions. The greatest form of travel combines these both. Leaving home means leaving attachment. Uncertainty means trust in God. The Persian poet Rumi didn't speak of travel as tourism. He spoke of it as leaving the familiar so the soul could grow, meaning one place could teach you patience, another could teach you generosity, another silence, another gratitude. I had a moment of gratitude a few weeks ago in the streets of Tangier when this kid with a very bad skin infection in his face and in his hands came up to me begging for $10 so he could buy some medication to spray on his infection. And I actually later caught a skin infection a couple days after I met this kid. I've taken the antibiotics the last week. It's basically gone now. How privileged am I that I'm able to, without thinking, go to the pharmacy, buy the medication, and never think about this again for the rest of my life. When this kid has had this on his face for God knows how long, and he has to beg people on the streets to just treat this skin infection that's eating away at his body. After I gave him a little bit of money so he could go get this medication that he needed, he started reciting, singing Quran for me in appreciation of the little bits that I gave him. And he just kept saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." But he had a look of shame in his eyes when he first asked for the money that you can't fake. This memory imprinted into my mind, this lesson of being grateful for the abundance of resources I have in this life and that you have in this life. We don't have to think twice when we want a drink of water. We don't have to think twice when we want to look up a piece of information on our phone where our next meal is going to come from, about when the next time you get to change clothes is. This travel experience taught me gratitude. I made a new very good friend, a local here in Chefchaouen, Morocco, who opened the doors of his home to me after the hostel I was staying at ran out of availability. This travel experience taught me generosity. When scammers in Tangier that see you every single day walking out of your hostel are asking for money, making up a new story every single day they see you, asking for money time and time again. This teaches you patience, teaches you how to keep your composure, and teaches you communication skills. On your end, trying to deal with them, and you study the way they're trying so hard to convince you to give them money. These guys are master communicators. Wandering Sufis lived as travelers by design. No fixed income, no permanent home, moving between lodges, and studying under multiple teachers. This wasn't instability. This was freedom from things owning them. When I first started learning about these traveling Sufis that would go from place to place for spiritual education, I realized I kind of been setting up my life since a teenager to today be a Sufi traveler myself. I don't have my own home or apartment. I stay with family. I don't have my own car. I borrow this old spare car that belongs to our family back home in California for the purpose of being able to drop everything and hit the road whenever I want, without the stress of owning these things back at home, beginning to own me, owning my freedom of location. For the traveling Sufis, this wasn't instability, it was freedom. I lost my wallet with my debit card since that last video I recorded the day I was traveling from Chefchaouen in Morocco to the capital of Morocco, Rabat. My debit card was lost in a cash-only country. My source of money was lost, and I only had about $90 in cash left to survive for about a week until I could figure out some way to get my hands on cash again. Moments like these teach you to detach from worldly outcomes and have full trust in God. I'm not gonna lie, the moment I was gonna get off the bus and feeling on my pockets to check, okay, I got my phone, I got my wallet, I got my wallet, where's my wallet? I start flipping over cushions in the bus, turning on my flashlight, looking underneath seats, and freaking out for a couple minutes. I realize, well, damn, this is my stop now. I have to get off this bus, and I do not have my wallet with my debit card. What do I do? So I said, you know what? I must detach from this worldly outcome and put my full trust in God that it will work out for me. I had about $90 in cash on me. It all worked out. I survived, paying one night at a time at different hostels for the cheapest price possible. And I got my hands on cash again. It worked out. New debit card is on the way to Morocco now. It's all good. In the moment, I was kind of freaking out for a couple minutes. But in the end, you must detach from the worldly outcome and attach yourself to the idea that God will provide. Not just in this tricky travel situation, but with all of life. This travel experience has now become a life lesson I will carry with me for the rest of my days that will give me success and fulfillment in this life. The way Ibn Battuta wrote in his travelogue, the Rihla, the road taught me what books never could, is the way I stand before you today, repeating the same line. Ibn Battuta's life philosophy was, Earth is the greatest classroom. For him, travel was an educational journey, a philosophical journey, and a spiritual journey. To him, travel wasn't a vacation. It was a chapter of growth. Be in this world as if you were a traveler along a path. The way the mountains pass by you as you look out the window on your road trip. The way you meet people along the journey for a few days and you never see them again. The way you get food poisoning and are throwing up for an entire day in your hostel toilet, but then the next day it's gone and you're perfectly fine again. Or the same way you visit a beautiful scenery for that sunset, but then you hop on a flight and it's gone the next day, is the way life is the way your loved ones in your life is. They're here for a moment. They will be gone the next. Is the way your money is. It can be here for a moment. It can be gone the next. It's the same way your health, your youth is. Will be here for a moment and gone the next. Be in this world as if you were a traveler along the path. If you wish Ibn Battuta had a YouTube channel today in the modern times, subscribe, because I am traveling in a circle around the entire planet and sharing the life lessons I learned along the way, because Earth is the greatest classroom. Take away from what I am learning on the road. Take away from the places that are teaching me life lessons that will contribute to my success and fulfillment in life, and get ideas for your success and your fulfillment in your life. Life begins with a question. Stay curious.